Alors bonjour à tous, merci d'être présents aujourd'hui par Zoom ou en direct. Aujourd'hui, j'ai le grand honneur de vous présenter Jérémy Hatepa, qui nous fait l'honneur de venir jusqu'à Montréal. Alors bienvenue à l'UQAM, Jérémy. Et donc il a voyagé de Nouvelle-Zélande tout en bas de la planète, de l'autre côté du globe. En fait, il était là avec nous à un congrès à Ottawa toute cette semaine. Et il a fait l'honneur de venir jusqu'à Montréal pour donner la conférence aujourd'hui. Donc merci Jérémy d'être ici aujourd'hui. Si je te parle en français, c'est parce que tu comprends très bien le français, parce que Jérémy est un grand joueur de rugby qui a joué longtemps au Japon, en France, en Italie, en Nouvelle-Zélande. Et je pense qu'aujourd'hui, tu arbores très bien les couleurs de ton équipe.
Allez, les Blacks.
Voilà, c'est ça. Donc, Jérémy, juste encore quelques mots sur lui. Il est professeur donc, à l'université de Otago, à Dunedin, en Nouvelle-Zélande, donc dans l'île du Sud. Et il enseigne l'éducation physique dans les traditions maoris. Et aujourd'hui, il vient nous présenter un projet qu'il mène avec plusieurs collègues du Canada, d'Australie et puis de Nouvelle-Zélande à propos de justement le sport comme outil de réconciliation entre les peuples autochtones. Je mélange toujours les termes autochtones et alloctones, finalement, ou les colonisateurs qui sont restés. Donc voilà, il va nous présenter là-dessus. Puis je pense que tu as aussi d'autres choses à nous montrer à propos de tes traditions, de la culture maori, et puis etc. Jérémy, merci beaucoup d'être ici. Puis je te laisse la parole. Évidemment, la présentation sera plus en anglais, parce que maori, vous n'allez pas comprendre, donc il a accepté de le faire en anglais. Should we go?
Voilà, allez.
Thank you, Jérémy.
On y va. Merci beaucoup. Merci à vous, Tedwin. Salut, bonjour tout le monde. Je m'appelle Jeremy. Oui, je parle un petit en français. Et voilà. Et bon, on y va. Ko hoturo te tangata ko tainui te waka ko Ngāti Raukawa, Ngāti Huia, Ngāti Toa me Ngāti Kuia, rangitāne ki wairau oku iwi. Ko tararua ngā pai maunga ko Manawa Tūtiawa, ko Ngā Tukuwaru te marae. O tira no tai tōko, raua ko te awahau tūturu. Tēnei te mihi nui ki ngā mana whenua o te rohi nei. O tira ki ngā iwi o Algonquin, rātou ko Anishinaabe, tēnā koutou o tira tēnā tātou katoa. Hello, everyone. I'm Jeremy from New Zealand, and I just opened with a traditional Māori mihi to introduce myself, and I also acknowledge the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people, First Nations people of this area of Quebec. So that was my acknowledgement to them. Voila. So yeah, I'm part of an international collaboration team from all over, as Tegwin already said en français, all over the world, from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, working with both settler scholars as well as Indigenous scholars in Canada. We have Dr. Dan Henhawk at Manitoba, Winnipeg, and other non-Indigenous scholars at Ottawa and York in Canada, and also, in Australia and New Zealand. So that's who we are, and what we're doing is looking at sport for reconciliation with settler communities and Indigenous people. So the presentation is NGO money or no money, mo problems. It's a bit of a North American mo money, mo problems, play on words. But really it's about the state resourcing of Māori in New Zealand, Māori communities, but of course in Canada, First Nations, and in Australia, Aboriginal communities, the state funding or resourcing of sport for reconciliation in those countries. Voilà, on y va. So today, quickly, the structure of the presentation. Very briefly, I'll begin with some definitions of reconciliation in sport and what we mean when we talk about these two terms. Then we have an activity for you all to do. Yes, you online on Zoom, you can also get up and do the activity too. It's only 5 minutes seulement, just 5 minutes. So feel free to join in if you wish to. You can participate in your own living rooms at home. Hop off your chair, push it to the side, and voila, we'll have some movement, some Māori movements. After the activity, 5 minutes, we'll get back into the presentation, talk about the rhetoric versus the reality. This is the nice sweet words, this is the nice policy, but actually what is happening on the ground in these communities. So the two examples I'll use today are the Aboriginal Sports Circle here in Canada, and then I'll talk about some experiences with Māori in New Zealand. And after that, there'll be questions and discussion. C'est bon?
Parfait.
Okay, on you bye. So online, feel free to just take yourself off mute if you want to ask a question at any time. Oh, wow. Okay, voila. It's the same of what I just explained, that slide. We're going to have maybe I need to get out of this view again. Anthony, is a problem on your end with this?
Yes, I do see there's a lot of wording all over the place.
Yeah, okay. It's a wee bit messy. Right. Is that better?
Yes, that's good.
Okay. So when we talk about reconciliation, Daniel Hindhawk at University of Manitoba says that it's much more than reconciliation. It's more about how we use our cultural activities to create a better human experience. This is what we mean when we talk about reconcile. It's deeply dependent on our stories that we choose to perpetuate that leads to self-determination, sovereignty, and emancipation. But at home in New Zealand, and also here because of ongoing colonial history and racism in sport, using sport for the purposes of reconciliation and self-determination is messy. It's paradoxical and it's often contradictory. So we say one thing, but we do another thing. So that's the rhetoric versus the reality, right? So in line with that thinking, our conceptualization of sport for reconciliation, or SFR, that we advocate argues for a more critical understanding of that tension, the contradiction, the paradox of rhetoric versus reality. And the paradox between Eurocentric understandings of physical activity and sport versus Indigenous understanding. So that's the activity we're going to do today. Have a look at the differences between traditional physical activity from a Māori perspective, and you can think about that at your own home in terms of a Eurocentric perspective. But it's essential to the activity is to enact a praxis for us that brings Indigenous notions of sovereignty and self-determination into reality. So turning that rhetoric into real things, real tangible outcomes. Voila. Boom. So I've prepared earlier a little. I have a Māori All Black here in the audience with me, a fine specimen of everything that is the best about Quebec and Canada, and he's going to be my lab rat, and he'll do the activity that I've prepared for you. And feel free to join in at home as well, Sandy. You can jump up too and join in, please. So in terms of sport, we argue that this includes traditional games, traditional physical activities, traditional cultural practices. For example, dance. So for Māori, you might be familiar with the haka, but also, just even walking. Anyway, we're going to jump into the activity now. So feel free to, at home, stand up and and join in. But please, Tigwin, can you please tell me what is Kevin's heart rate?
Now is 65.
Can you confirm his
Yes.
heart rate? Yeah.
Now it's on
Yes.
the bid because
Yeah. You stood up.
75.
60 was 65 sitting down.
when I was sitting, it's
65 BPM. Voila. 65 beats per minute. Yeah. Very good.
kind of elaborate.
Okay. So just going to jump into the thing that I've prepared earlier. Can you see this on your screen, Anthony?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, I can see you're still sitting down, Anthony.
Yeah. Okay, I'm getting up.
Okay, good. I think you need to get up. Yeah. All right. It's 5 minutes seulement. So, allez, on y va tout le monde.
From a static position, a dynamic position, and a progressive movement for Toroa Koka level 1, cool? Which looks like this. We're going to start off in a neutral position. Our neutral position, it's our heels underneath our hips. We want to have a nice long spine. Our head wants to be pulled from the sky. Let's get our toes slightly on the outside of the shoulders. Hands are on the hips. For men, we embrace and cup just like so. Just fit them over the top of your hip bone. For girls, fist it over the top of the hip bone, just like so. And let's go into our first static movement of Toroa Koka. Point, neutral position, wahanga tuatahi Toroa Koka, level 1, tukua. Good. Now you just want to start to follow your breathing. You want to find the flow and your balance. Get right up to the top of the balls of your feet. Good, nice straight spine. And what we do is we clear and come back into neutral. The second dynamic movement is just like so. Cool. All we're going to be doing is swaying from side to side with a balanced form in your spine and your postural position. Coming back to neutral. Pai, kia ora te, tukua, hei. Now for the dynamics of this particular movement, we want to make sure that our posture is intact. Keep the integrity and the form of our dynamic Toroa Koka. All right, moving down, clear, back into neutral. Now we're going to start the main event, the progressive movement. We're going to be bouncing from side to side with the flick. And you want to have your toes on a point, your posture is still intact, and don't forget to clear at the end to come back to neutral. Progressive Māori movement, Toroa Koka, level 1. It's all about breathing. Kia ora te. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Hey. Now all you need is a small space. You're going to be jumping on the spot. But now you can start to really feel the spirit of Tāne Mahuta, the god of the forest and birds. Breathing is the key. Now in the Māori art form of haka, a lot of it comes from the breath of life, which you breathe through. And let's go for another 10 seconds. Keep maintaining the integrity of your posture and the flick of the leg. 5, 4, 3, 2, clear. Come back into neutral. Now we've moved to the last part of Tāne Mahuta, level 1, Toroa Koka. Now we're going to demonstrate the art of what we call a papa horonuku. Now a papa horonuku looks exactly like this. We want to have our heels based underneath our hips again, our hand in our neutral position. What we're going to be doing is sitting down. Kia ora te tātou katoa, tukua. Now what you're doing is coming down and you're being in a stabilized position. Your knees should be following your toes. Your hips should be over the top of your heels, hamstrings resting on the calves. Now again, your postural analysis should be nice and straight, as if you've still got that string pulling you from the top. Ki runga, tuka, hey. Good. Down to our end point. So papa horonuku, we're going to do 3, just so that you can see what it looks like, and you can do it at home. Kia ora te, tuka, hey. Tahi, ki runga. And last one, and back. Clear. Go wide out, and back into neutral. Now here's the challenge. 30 seconds, as many papa horonuku as you can get. Now we're going to follow the beep line. You'll hear the 3 beeps, you begin. Now we have 2 dynamic papa horonukus and a scaled version. Boys, so if you're struggling to get all the way down to your knees, all you do is just come halfway. Kei te pai tērā. Once you feel confident, then you can advance. Boys, so the challenge is 30 seconds. For girls, you should be reaching in between the 30 and 40 repetition mark. For men, let's try for 50 to 60 in 30 seconds.
Allez, Kevin.
Kei a koe te wā. So we'll count our first 30 seconds on. Kia rite.
Ready?
And tugua.
On y va.
Right, this is roughly the pace that we want to stay with. It's about endurance.
Allez, allez.
So we have to make sure we maintain the integrity of the exercise,
Anthony,
the
allez.
best out of the exercise possible. So it's all about balance and control. Breathe, so our Māori movement can be fluent. Now at some stage, it's gonna burn. And that's what it's all about. You got another 10 seconds. By now you should be feeling the burn. 3, 2, 1, and clear. Good, and coming back into neutral. So by then you should be able to see how many repetitions you can get in 30 seconds.
Omio?
I didn't count.
No.
Oh,
How great?
1 and 3.
130?
Yeah.
130? Allez, please have a seat.
D'abord,
Yeah.
Voilà. Okay. So, Kevin, your heart rate doubled.
Yeah.
In 5 minutes? Yeah, you feel good?
A little sweaty.
Little sweaty?
Yeah.
Voila. So, what we're advocating for is a more nuanced understanding of what is physical activity, eh? Because this Māori movement, we're learning more than just moving our bodies. You know, we're trying to shift people's minds, their hearts, their souls, their understandings. So yeah, we get some good physiological benefits out of exercise, but we don't just exercise for the sake of exercise. What's the point? What's the purpose? Why would you go and run for 1 hour? Just for that? We want more than just that. Yeah, we want to move people. It's a social movement as much as a physical movement. Shifting people's mindsets, shifting their paradigms, changing their thinking. At least from a Māori perspective of why we move. I can't speak, of course, for the Canadian. Dan Hinnock, he can tell us about this. Maybe the communities that Luca and Jennifer work with, they can tell us about this. Yeah, so up on there. Oh, there's one.
That's the conference, the more dynamic I assist recently.
Bon.
Michel.
Merci beaucoup, Louise Charles. Yeah. Oh, you need the water. Huh?
No, it's for not holding on the computer.
Okay.
The exercise was really hard. Huh?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So as I was saying, we're trying to not redefine sport, but we're trying to get people to think about sport in a different way, physical activity differently. Yeah, not just jogging for 1 hour and yeah. Voilà. So this is kind of when we think about sport for reconciliation, you know, let's have a conversation less about sport and more about reconciling to bring people together. Mais voilà. On y va. So the rhetoric versus the reality. From an example of the Aboriginal Sports Circle, what we see here in Canada, in 2017, the Aboriginal Sports Circle, Indigenous-led organization and the Authority for Sport in Canada, the government of Canada gave them $800,000. Wow, this is a good thing. And with that $800,000, the government of Canada, we're going to, quote, make a real difference to the lives of Indigenous people by supporting self-determination through reconciliation. Voila. That's the rhetoric. That's the nice policy speak, which sounds good, yeah, except for $800,000. That seems cheap. It's buying a lot, right? If you're going to reconcile with only that much money, less than $1 million, that's great bang for buck. But here's the paradox, here's the contradiction. 1 year later, in the federal budget of 2018, the same government ignored the Aboriginal Sports Circle, and they gave $4.5 million to the Right to Play NGO. Essentially, a non-Indigenous international NGO that engages in sport for development, but essentially they ignored the First Nations people. Here's $800,000. We're going to, change the world with $800,000.
Is it 4.5 or 47?
47.5 million. Yeah, 9.5 million over 5 years. So almost $10 million a year for 5 years. Sorry about my slides. To the Right to Play to make it versus 800,000 to the Aboriginal Sports Circle to make a real difference. That's the reality, right? That's the rhetoric versus the reality, paradoxical. What? Okay, on your bar. So if you want to read more about that, you can look up this article in the conversation, and these scholars talk about this in more detail in the conversation. And one of them is one of our Audrey Giles down there in the bottom right-hand corner. She's the person who holds this this SSHRC grant, Social Sciences and Humanities grant at the University of Ottawa. So the grant sits with Audrey at U Ottawa, and you can read more about it on the conversation. I'm not going to try and talk for the Canadian people. What I can talk about, though, is I can talk from a Māori perspective in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Okay. So, so here I go. What happened in New Zealand and during COVID is that worldwide, everything shut down, right? Everything finished. Sport finished, everything finished. COVID, lockdown. And then as we started kind of thinking about coming out of COVID, the government decided to invest in starting sport back up again. Re-engaging, resetting, rebuilding. And so they set aside a relief package of 265 million. Initially, there was a 25 million. And then after that first 25 million, or the first 10%, they also threw another $265 million at Sport New Zealand. And they said to, we're going to do things, reset, we're going to strengthen and adapt sport, and we're going to do things different and better to the way we've done it previously. Okay, so my little question there is, sounds good, right? So far, so good. No problem here. Nothing to see here. Nothing going on here. Or what's the reality? Is it just the same old same? Is it the same for the Aboriginal Sports Circle in Canada? Et voila. And this is what happened. So of the $290 million, the government put $7 million aside for a kaupapa Māori response. Are you any good at maths? Can you do the percentage? Oh. 7 million out of 290? How much is that? 2%? 2%, if you're lucky. Māori, kaupapa Māori response, $2 million out of 290 million. That's not 2%. 7 million is about 2%. So Māori are 17% of the New Zealand population. Yeah, so there's a wee bit of a, we're 17% of the population, at least give us maybe 17% of the 290 million, right? So we should be getting the same amount of money as the right to play got in Canada, almost 50 million. No, you can have 7. So that's our reality. Of the 7 million, these people here, Māori national sports organisations. So, for example, Kevin, stand up. New Zealand Māori Rugby, for example. Yep. Okay, Kevin, thank you. Sit down. New Zealand Māori Rugby, New Zealand Māori Soccer, football, New Zealand Māori hockey, New Zealand Māori tennis, New Zealand Māori golf. Or 10 of you get $350,000. So that's the rhetoric versus the reality. So we talked to these people. We went to Māori netball, tennis, football, basketball. We didn't include Māori rugby because one of our authors and one of the people on the research team is the deputy chair of New Zealand Rugby and the chair of New Zealand Māori Rugby. So we couldn't ask her because she's on the research team. So a wee bit of a conflict of interest talking to her. So we went, no, you shut up. We talked to these other people. Yeah. So we talked to them all. Sorry, no. We invited them all, 9 of them, 7 of them come back to us and said, yep, we're happy to share our experience of trying to work with Sport New Zealand. And, so what I'll talk about today is that piece of research, talking to those organisations, okay? We employed a critical kaupapa Māori lens. Kaupapa Māori theory is very closely aligned to critical theory. Yeah? So we're very critical about this funding distribution. Voila. And so what we wanted to know is past, present, and future. In the past, what has your relationship been like? What is it like now in the present? And what are your hopes for tomorrow? What would you like to see change, done different and better, right? Because that's what Sport New Zealand said they were going to do, different and better. They're not doing better and they're not doing different. That's basically what we found. Yeah, we found this is the same old same. So we organised our analysis into past, present, and future across those relationships. What was your relationship like 10 years ago, today, tomorrow? Across resources and across the resilience that is required to change the current status quo, to do things different and better. And I'm not going to go through that whole slide today because I don't think I have time, but I'm going to pull out some of the quotes from the participants across those areas. Okay, on you va. So in terms of relationships and building relationships, this is what the Māori national sport organisations told us. Okay, they receive no direct funding directly from Sport New Zealand. It gets funneled through the parent body. So, for example, New Zealand football get the funding, and then New Zealand football are supposed to pass some funding on to Māori football. In theory, that's what's supposed to happen. In practice, this is what people told us. The kaupapa, the purpose for Māori football, in that example, is this. They're not doing it for the money. They're not doing it for the football. They're doing it for the whanaungatanga. That's why they play Māori football. It's about the relational aspect of gathering as people and being relational. They've been doing it some of them have been doing it for 100 years, and they'll carry on doing it for 100 years. Funding or not, they want to keep being relational. So really, they've been existing on, for some of the organizations, $5,000 is their annual budget. So we do it for free. We do it for love. We do it for voluntarily, not for the money. But that helps, yeah. We can do more of it. If we have more money, we can do more. We can do more. So basically, the relationships have been poor with the parent body, with the mainstream organization. Some of them have been saying, yeah, we give Māori this much money. Not true. They haven't been. Yeah, they've been taking it off Sport New Zealand, and it's been disappearing in some black hole somewhere. Voila. So to give you an example of that, this participant here said, we've got no money really. I've been declined 9 times for funding. Yeah. Funding applications, asking for money. The rigmaroles and the circles of that just sent my head into a spin. So I said, that's it. I'm not doing it anymore. Not one more funding application ever again. Because the politics of this grant game are just disgusting. Yeah. So that's one experience. Another experience here. Oh, we used to get funding from parent NSO, for example, let's say New Zealand Football. Yeah. And then just cut straight away, gone. No reason or anything. We weren't even told, just disappeared. To find out that parent NSO are getting a proportion of that funding, it's just not getting to where it needs to get to, disappearing into that black hole. But these people said, well, funding's not the only thing we need. It's not just money. I know that if you look at anyone that's volunteering, doing it for free, for love, for aroha, I know they'll be stretched. There are multiple people doing multiple roles across multiple sports. Some of them work across 3 or 4 different Māori sport NSOs, all for free, just to keep Māori participating as Māori in sport. Yep, but they're stretched. And so when we talk to them about the future, what would they like to, okay, if this is happening today, it's happened in the past, what would you like for tomorrow, for next year, the season after? And this is what some of them told us. Our core values, holding on to those, they continue, across the codes. But they talked about having our own mana motu hake. That term means self-determination, autonomy, having our own decision-making power to control our own funding that we're not getting. Okay, that's what they would like in the future. And it's this person here, if we turn to mainstream, they need to have a commitment within strategies and organizations that honour Te Riti o Waitangi, the treaty that we signed. They're still developing their treaty response. We signed the treaty 200 years ago. They're still developing their policy. So, in time, I was in a meeting 20 years ago, and still we're getting no support. So that's our experience. Before I conclude, I'm just going to give you another example of investing in the New Zealand state investment in culture and art. Okay? So for the activity we just did, it was a bit of a kapahaka activity, right? Moving like a Māori, doubling our heart rates. And we do that for hours in kapahaka. Hours and hours of training to get up on stage and perform at the National Kapahaka Championships. So, oh gosh, this slide is terrible, Ted, sorry. I'm going to exit out of there and jump down to a different view. So Te Matatini, this is our national kapahaka competition. Okay, so we have 46 teams go make it to nationals, only 46. There are a lot more regionally that try to get to nationals. There are a lot of kapahaka teams want to go to nationals, but only 46 teams can. Each team, 40 people. Do the math, that's 1,840 people get to go to Te Matatini. Almost 2,000, plus another 4,000 or 5,000 that didn't make it. Yep. The New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, they have 90 people perform in the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra. 90. They get this much money for 90 people to perform culture and art. Yep. The New Zealand Royal Ballet, they get, in 2021, $5.4 million. You know how many dancers are in the New Zealand Royal Ballet? 36. 36 people, 90 people, almost 10,000 people competing to get to nationals where only 2,000 can go. And the government decided, oh, maybe we should change this. Yeah. So the next year, what did they do? Oh, wait, sorry. Wait a minute. You Māoris, you also need to do all of these things. You Māoris, you need to get 65,000 people attending the audience, because kapahaka is a week-long tournament. And over that week, you need to have 65,000 people come through the gate. Yeah. These guys? Oh, don't. You don't have any audience targets. You just, what you get is what you get. Yeah. Television, we need to have 1 million viewers on TV over the week to get that funding. If they don't, maybe you won't get so much. So Māori are made to jump through hoops to get crumbs. Non-Māori, hey, have a lot of, don't worry about it. Here you go, have some money. Audience, doesn't matter. Have some money. Yeah. So the government said, oh, we'll change. We'll do better. We'll do different. We'll give you 50% more, which is great. So the next year, they gave Te Matatini another $1 million. Here you go. The rhetoric was have another 50%. Now, 50% sounds a lot, right? Awesome, 50% more. But they also gave Royal New Zealand Ballet 50% more. They also gave the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra just as much more as they gave these two. So, well, the kind of defeats the purpose. If you're going to give Māori more, that's great. But in the context of giving everyone else just as much, that doesn't close the gap. That maintains the gap. And that's our reality. That's our experience. So that leads me to my conclusions. Back here. So past relationships are carrying on today. It's just the same old same. Yeah, different. The talk versus the reality, two different things. But Māori, despite having no resources, we will continue to be resilient. We will continue doing kapa haka, which in 5 minutes increased your heart rate, doubled it. We'll keep doing this stuff for nothing because it's not about the money. It's about maintaining our culture, our identity, our traditions, our rituals, and celebrating that. That's why we do it. Yeah. One of the sports participants here of the Māori NSO said basically, so for the social part of me, which included my Māori cultural element, it was very, very weak. He played a mainstream sport. Yeah, I had a weak cultural identity as a Māori. I reflected back on my own upbringing and my lack of awareness of other Māori playing the game. And there's actually a massive uptake of Māori wanting to play the game, a growing generation of kids. So I've decided enough, it's not good enough. What is being done, what is happening, it's not enough, it's not good enough. Yeah. And so with those, words in mind, I think back to my daughter in this picture, who's dressed in her kapa haka, and I think, yeah, this is not good enough. You're not encouraging us as Māori to celebrate our cultural identity. You're encouraging ballet, orchestra, which is great, but compared to the amount of people doing kapa haka, it's not so great. Et voilà, c'est bon. Merci beaucoup. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Jeremy.
Merci beaucoup.
Now, Jeremy, before you're leaving, I have a present for you because you come all the way from here. So you know that I'm wearing some bow ties. So you have to wear a bow tie back in your country made of your own tissue.
Wow.
So it's a Maori bow tie made with your color. So I think it's not the punamu, but it's this.
Merci beaucoup.
Great pleasure, great honor. Thank you for everyone to be here today, and thank you for the one who were in online.
Yes.
Thank you, Anthony, for organizing this, and Réjean. And
thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for coming, Jeremy.
Merci beaucoup. Don't forget to stretch, Anthony.
You got it. I do that. I like it.
Voila.
perfect. Thank you very much, Jeremy.